Hi, I'm Nathan Barr, and this is my studio, Bandrika Studios. And I'll show you a couple oddities I have in here. This is a indoor calliope that was built for me. It's called a calliophone. It's got 58 brass whistles. It's basically a pipe organ, except instead of pipes, you have these brass whistles. And it has a roll player in the back. So it actually is a self-playing automatic musical instrument. And then you can so it's basically you've got what's called a blower in here, which is the wind machine, and that allows you to get wind wherever you need to play it. So you've got, again, 58 brass whistles that you play through. And this is an indoor version of a calliope, and actual calliopes are steam driven, and they're very loud, very messy, because you've got all that water and steam coming through. And they're also very dangerous because you have a boiler, high pressure nearby. So actually there have been a couple instances over the years since calliopes showed up where people have been killed at a fairground or something because the boiler explodes. So I guess the outdoor version of this would go into the category of instruments that can kill you. This is my gear closet here, which these days is not nearly as busy, obviously, as it would have been back in the day, because so much more stuff is in the box now. But we have all of our video here, video routers, our A to D DDA converters. We have our amps, Rotel amps that power the B&W monitors in the control room. We have a pretty sophisticated headphones mixing system for orchestral sessions and day-to-day use. Then we've got another video router there. These are our headphones amps for driving headphones when we've got 50 players in the room. So again, we made plenty of space so we can add gear one day if we need to. But yeah, this is just a little fun toy piano. If you look in here, you can see that it's called a barrel piano. There's basically a mechanism in here that looks a lot like a music box, and as you turn that, those little nails come into contact with something with a spring on it that then activates that string. Got a little wood block, little triangle. So this would have been something you would see a street person cranking during the holidays and collecting change in a hat kind of thing. And I think this one's from the 50s. And we'll walk through this room, which is sort of it's an ISO booth, and it's also an additional rig. This is our harpsichord here, which is usually on the stage. Right now it's here because we just needed room for these concerts that we did here the other night. And then this is the scoring stage. This is Dimitri over here, one of my assistants, also a gifted composer, arranger. And yeah, as you can see, the focal point of this is this organ over here, which I'll turn on. So I'll flip the chair over here so you can see the bench. If you look right here, you can see the original stamp of the Fox Film Corp. And that same stamp is under the actual console itself. So this was built in 1928 in upstate New York by Wurlitzer. And Wurlitzer also built one for Warner Brothers. And these were located on the scoring stages of those studios. And it basically, these exist because of silent film. Some very smart businessmen and musicians realized early on that to maximize the impact of a silent film on the audience, music wanted to be a part of it. And so they created this incredible, basically 1920s synth orchestra that could be performed by one organist. So you had not only pipes, but percussion instruments. So what I mean by that is, if I sit down here, you actually have, real percussion instruments. You control volume with those shutters up there. When I press my foot down, they open and close. If they're open, that's more volume. If I close them, there's less volume. So if I open that middle chamber, you have something that's basically a celeste. That's a real celeste up there. And then if I activate this vibrato mechanism, which I'll show you later, makes it into like a vibraphone. You've got orchestral bells. You've got real cathedral chimes. And these are actually those instruments up there being played. A xylophone. Marimba. If you hold it down, it'll actually repeat it, like marimba mallets. And then over there, that upright piano is a part of the organ too. Let's see here. And then if I press this button, it's called a mandolin rail, it actually turns that into sort of a tack piano. So it's a really incredible amount of things that you have at your fingertips. And then the bass pipes on these instruments are pretty phenomenal. So you really feel that in the room. And then you can actually activate bass drum with your pedals, kettle drum, which is like a timpani. And you got your crash cymbals, a tap cymbal. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. And I'll just play you. One of the things I updated in this was I put a computer between this and the organ, the pipes, and it means that anyone who sits down and plays, their performance is captured as something like MIDI, and then the computer will spit it back out through the organ like a giant player piano. So this is a tune most people will recognize as played by my friend Mark. So that's 1,366 pipes and a whole bunch of percussion as well. You heard in there the cymbals. And then the other cool thing about this is Wurlitzer called these junk drawers. They're really called swing out trays, if you're being respectful about it. These are a whole series of sound effects up there, which are also all real instruments mechanically played. So if you were playing a silent film and the police showed up, you had a real police siren. You had the Acme siren. police whistle, auto horn, the bird whistle, the boat whistle. The fire brigade shows up. If you're playing a horse chase, you're playing Zorro, the original Zorro, you got your horse hooves. A Chinese block, a roll cymbal, real roll cymbal. This is an actual gong. Slide whistle, wind chimes. And then this is one of my favorites, the surf. That's the ocean sound. And all that's, there's no speakers or samples or synths or anything. It's all actual mechanical devices creating all that. So it's pretty cool. So we've just started experimenting with getting Logic to talk to the organ. And our initial explorations are really exciting, and it took a lot of coordination between my guys here, my staff, and then the gentleman who developed the computer relay system back in the 80s that allowed those keyboards to talk to the organ and to be recorded. I'll just show you this real quick. So this is a Wurlitzer piano. It was built for a Wurlitzer organ. It was built for the Portland Paramount organ. And basically when you ordered an organ back in the 20s, you could include many instruments in that. And one of the things that you wanted with an organ often was a piano. So that if you did want to do sort of a simple piano score, you could play that from the organ console. And if you want to get a close-up here, this is this incredible, beautiful wiring by a guy named Steve Hansen, who's part of Ken Chrome's staff. He's the gentleman I bought the organ from and who restored it. And each one of these is a solenoid. And basically, there's a magnet in here, a magnet coil, and that helps. When you play the key, it sends an electrical signal to the solenoid, which activates. And sucks an aperture in, and then the air goes in, and it fires the hammer. So it's a pretty amazing instrument. And then this lever here drops this piece of wood up here. And as you can see, if you look at this rail, it's called a mandolin rail. You've got these leather strips, and at the end of it, each leather strip is a little piece of metal. So when you drop that down between the hammer, you get like a tack piano. So it's a pretty amazing mechanical device. And all of this technology goes back to the early 1900s when they really started thinking about doing this stuff. Basically. It basically turns that wheel, which is a drone wheel. And so it's like a kind of, if you took a hurdy-gurdy and put a hurdy-gurdy wheel onto a cello. Kind of cool. This is an upright piano that I had my piano tech cut in half, and then we could flip it up on its back. And it allows you to access. This is like a very big part of the sound of the Americans, obviously, and True Blood. And I had a special series of dampers, damper control. So basically, I can control just the treble end, so the bottom end, bass end stays dampered. Or you can engage just the bottom end and do just the top. And this is obviously, I use this in the American's theme. So this is a nice sound to it. And that, I think that really plugged into Elizabeth's character for whatever reason really well. These are called shaker chimes. They're from 1901. They're really rare to come by. So, other than my misplayed note there, you get an idea of how they sound. So there's a really cool sound to it. And they're basically just a series of wind chimes mounted to a wood rod. And this chime is shaken in this channel. And as it hits either side of the channel, it makes, it sounds, it resonates. So it's kind of simple, but really cool. It's based on an Indonesian instrument called an angklung, where these are bamboo. This is, it looks like a pump organ from the top down, but as you can see from what's above it, it's not a pump organ at all. It was completely gutted, and it's something I spent the past couple years developing with my friend Mark. And so we had these special stops put in, so when I pull incito out, incito is Latin for to arouse, it turns on the blowing wind machine in there and then sends air into this. And then when I play it, I'm going to put in earplugs. You're probably okay. Just give me the, but it's very loud. Let me take the dogs out. Come on, guys. Come on, let's go. Come on, come on. It's loud, very loud for them. So. So it's really loud. It's out of tune, so you usually have to spend some time tuning. So basically tune like this with that's kind of in tune. Kind of. And then basically if I pull this crepitus out, which is Latin for like to take a shit, it sends a second set of wind through the first set of wind, and you'll hear it just becomes all mayhem. How the dogs got, okay. It's gonna hurt your ears. Anyhow, that's an instrument we're just starting to experiment with, and just an interesting piece of history. This pipe, and we've got a couple hundred like it, was pulled out of the MacArthur Hotel downtown, and they just threw out that organ like scrap metal. And scrap wood a couple weeks ago. So my friend Mark Herrmann found out about it, and we went down and got a bunch of pipes that will be useful to us, including all these actually. Those are also from MacArthur. They're from a Robert Morton organ, which was a local company in Van Nuys. They were the second largest manufacturer of theater organs. So, and then in here is the organ. This entire structure back here is the pipe organ. So when you walked through this door just now, you stepped into the case for the organ, basically. And it's 2 mechanical rooms down here and 3 musical rooms upstairs. And this right here is the modern relay system, which allows the keyboards at the console to speak to all the pipes above. This giant bundle of wires here, each one of those wires terminates in a pipe or a mallet, which is then activated from the keyboards. And this system of relays allows you to be very varied in terms of how you get what one key, for example, will do. You could have one key literally fire every pipe in the organ if you wanted to. This is the computer system through which we have the organ play. And if I go in here right now, I can select an organist. And I go play the jukebox. It's actually a different organist. This is my friend Mark Herrmann. He's a wonderful organist. And then we have all these things that he's played in here. So I could press that right now, and now the organ's going to play above us all the pipes. You can hear the celeste right now. So it's this incredible ability to have this thing play, to capture performances, basically. This is just kind of a funny thing, but many pipe organs over the years have been ruined by flooding from faulty sprinkler heads. You've got to have sprinklers. So I had a special sprinkler system put in that basically services just the organ area of the building. And it basically keeps all the water here. So if someone were moving a big pipe around, knock the sprinkler head, no water comes down. So you can see it's an incredibly complicated system, but it, knock on wood, increases the chances that this will not be ruined by flooding from sprinklers. So we'll go in here now. So this is called a subchamber. Most organs don't have these. I did this because, as you can hear, there's a lot of mechanical noise generated by the organ. And by isolating all this stuff in chambers downstairs, you won't hear any of this stuff on the stage when we're recording the organ. When this was at Fox, all of these elements were up with the pipes. So like most theater organs, you turned it on and you really heard a lot of noise that had nothing to do with the music. So that was the vibrato kicking in just now. I'm going to lift this lid off, and if you can look in here, you'll see that there's a lid bouncing up and down. The wind pushes that up, and these weights push it down, and that fluctuation in air pressure is how you create vibrato on a theater organ. And the minute one of these gets activated, it starts activating one of these reservoirs up here, whose tension, the air pressure, is controlled by spring tension. So it's all kind of like early 1900s steampunk mechanical wizardry to make music. That's one room, and then this over here is the second room. So in that room, we were standing under maybe 900 pipes. And in here, we're standing under another couple hundred. Again, in here, they're called tremulants, which create vibrato. And then these are your regulators, or your reservoirs. So right now, any pipes at the other end of that's feeding into are going to have vibrato on them. If we turn this off, you'll see it just stopped vibrating. Starts again. That's all done from the console when you're playing. So, and you can see these walls are super thick, so none of this noise gets out into the stage. So now we'll go upstairs. So this first floor of this giant sort of structure for the organ is the mechanical floor, and now we'll go upstairs, which is where all the musical elements are living. Careful. So we're now on the second floor with 3 rooms or chambers. In this room is all the percussion. In this room is called the main chamber, which has a bunch of pipes in it. And then behind you is the solo chamber. And I'll take you in the main chamber first. So this is called the main chamber. And these are all original pipes from 1928. So all of these were on the Fox scoring stage. All beautifully hand soldered, which doesn't really happen these days. And you can fire them off locally if you need to regulate them or pitch them. So you have all these great sounds that could be made. If you follow me here, careful of these guys. So basically, all of these, this is a clarinet rank right here. So this makes it's a clarinet pipes that sound like a clarinet. Can you just play the clarinet? So pretty cool. And then down here you have your smallest pipe, which is that. So very high pitch. And if you look at that next to these pipes, you can just see the incredible difference in pitch and in size between whichever pitch you want to generate. It's pretty cool. I'll come this way, meet you out there. Woo. Oh, that's your thing, shit. Okay. Oop. Yeah, it's a pretty, pretty crowded space. Okay. Cool. So, watch your head in this room. This is a wind line here. So this is your percussion chamber. So this is really the thing that sets this apart from a church organ. You wouldn't have all this stuff in a church organ. You may get chimes in a church organ, an occasional cymbal, but you don't get a lot like a xylophone or a marimba. So all this stuff was built in North Tonawanda, New York in 28, and it all came when you got the organ. This all came with it. This is a celeste. Do you want to play the celeste? So that's an actual celeste. And that's my assistant Dimitri right now playing it down at the organ console. And from the time he hits a key to the time one of these fires or a pipe fires, it's less than 1/10 of a second. So pretty amazing that they could achieve that back in the early 20th century. And then you've got all these different sound effects that I showed you down there. This was your horse mechanism, horse hooves. You've got castanets. You have a boat whistle or a train. You have an Acme siren, police whistle. It's loud, so don't bother with the the police siren. And then this is the box that I said was the surf. So this box, there were thousands of these built back in the early 1900s just to create the sound of an ocean. So if you're playing a silent film, you get to the ocean, you could do it. So it's basically air coming out of this slot, and then you basically have this metal membrane in front, and the air racing over either side of the membrane makes that sound, which kind of sounds like an ocean. And then this is a marimba. It's a chromatic marimba. It's just stacked double, so you could save space. So pretty cool. And then you've got cathedral chimes back here. And then down here, if you look under here, you can see you've got these straps with sleigh bells that are actually tuned. Really loud. And then you've got a mechanical set of wind chimes. This was an element I added just because I thought it was useful and really cool. So yeah, that's so when you hear that phrase, all the bells and whistles, that comes from pipe organ. Pretty amazing. Watch your head behind you, and we'll go into the next room. And then this is the last of the 3 rooms. This is, I'll just show you, this is called the solo chamber. And this is one of our biggest pipes. It's a low C sharp. And I'll put my head up to the wind, so you can see the amount of wind required. So there's a lot of wind coming out of there to fire off that pipe. And then you've got a couple hundred pipes in here. Again, a total of 1,366 pipes. These are very rare, even among Wurlitzers. They're 16-foot string pipes. They're supposed to sound like a cello or a bass kind of thing. Again, in that 1920s synth, whatever the ability they had was. So pretty cool. And then you have an actual, it's called a brass sax. Not intended to be a saxophone as we know it. It was a reed color. It was basically intended to add color. But then you have these 8-foot tall trumpet pipes. So basically, when you bend a pipe over like this, it's called mitering. And the reason you did that is this pipe here, is it's 16 feet long. So you would need 16-foot. Well, even more, you need 17-foot ceilings for these. The reason you want this room to be as small as possible is so the sound can go out. If you had a giant room, all the sound gets lost in the room before it heads out. So pipe organ manufacturers from the beginning of time, when they started doing these, were very good at maximizing space usage in a pipe chamber. So that's kind of how that works. And then here you can see all the wind lines that are coming up below from those regulators I showed you. So basically this is charged with wind right now. Comes up, loads this chest with wind, and then when you press that key, sends electrical signal, opens the magnet, and fires air through the pipe. That's kind of how it happens in a simple way. So yeah, and then the air for this instrument is drawn through a giant wind machine called a blower. And I'm going to show you that blower, and that is basically taking air from this area, about 60 feet of tubing, all the way down to that room, and we'll go look at that now. Original reel, a friend just gave me from Fox of some movie, 35 millimeter, pretty cool. So, all the wind for the organ, you need a lot of wind to play a pipe organ. So this room was built specially for the blower, which came with the Fox organ. So what is in here was that Fox also from 28 to 98. It's a 15 horsepower blower. I had it completely rewound. And as you'll hear, it's very loud. And it provides a huge amount of wind. So we'll go in there. I won't really be able to talk to you, but you can at least sort of get a sense for what goes into winding an organ. That's humidity. This is a 4-ton air conditioning unit. The wind. So you hear, listen, there's one door shut. So you really can't hear it at all. So we put a lot of effort into that. That was in a outdoor bunker, not unlike this at Fox, which is now used for storage there. So you get an idea for how complicated it is. This is called an Orchestrion. It's a replica of one from the early 1900s, or a Nickelodeon. It's basically an automatic musical instrument. See back here, it's got the same mechanism as the Wurlitzer piano. It's got that tack mechanism. It's called the mandolin rail, pushes down. So these are all these cool innovations that were happening around then that sort of cross-pollinated between different manufacturers and yeah, it's just really cool. So upstairs here is the lounge. And so you can see it's Art Deco style. Went kind of nuts with it. And the cool thing about this is it's basically a viewing room for during sessions. If you look down there, you can watch the session up here. And then all the music gets piped in, the session gets piped in through these speakers in the columns. And then the TV is where people watch picture. So it's a great, fun place for a larger part of the production team to come enjoy the session and not be crammed into the control room downstairs. So there's some more musical curiosities. This is built by the same guy who built the chimes downstairs, J.C. Deegan. Built in Chicago in 1915. It's basically a really loud, reiterating, repeating glockenspiel. There's a keyboard in back. It's not working right now. But you'd put this at the front of a fairground and you could play music over a big crowd because it's so loud. This is a street organ, which was built for me by a guy named Johnny Verbeck, who's was one of the great organ builders, like a fourth generation. He just passed away a couple years ago. So this is one of the last instruments he made, and you can hear it. So this would have been another one you'd see in the street, and you'd see someone with a hat or a monkey would sit up here and run down and collect change from people. But the design of these, goes back hundreds of years, all of it. And it's, again, there's nothing, you might have seen a component that looked electrical in there. That was just so I can play it with a MIDI keyboard. But everything else is totally organic acoustic stuff. This is a upright piano from 1830. It's called a euphonicon, a Steward's euphonicon. Solid like iron or something. It weighs a crazy amount. Macassar ebony, old growth Macassar ebony, which you can't really get anymore. Beautiful wood. It's a veneer. And it's a design that never really took off, but it's a cool. But it is a really cool looking instrument. This is a glass harmonica. Ben Franklin invented these. One of his favorite inventions, it said, this series of crystal cups. The size of the cup determines the pitch. And his genius was to sort of nest them on a cork rod so that they could be played very easily instead of having all your glasses laid out like you would have. And those, if you've ever seen those guys play those glasses, I mean, it's mind-blowing. But Ben Franklin just sort of took that concept and made it something that was a bit more workable. The gold rims here are the black keys on the keyboard. So it's C, C, C. It's 2 octaves of C. Beautiful instrument, though. That's kind of it.